this. It's got the number 4 on the top. Actually, it was net. And then a cowrie shell underneath indicating money. So net, of course, looks like this, and it still looks like that. So this would be somebody netting in money to go buy it or carrying it in their apron or something. It's been simplified to this, hango over tao, which I think of as someone wearing a scarf. So tao means head, and then I think of that as a scarf. Someone's put their hair up so they can go shopping. Hung, go, dian, dian, hung, pie, dian. Chen shan, chen is the clothing radical again. We see that, which is the radical form or the component form of yi fu. Yi, this is an indication of clothing because you're showing the folds of the robe there. You can sort of see how here we have someone in their robes. Their feet here, there we go. So you can sort of imagine that has to do with clothing. This is different from this radical, which is sure, because it only has one dot on the right side. So you want to make clear that difference. This is the kind of thing a native would never make an error with. The phonetic on this is twin, chen, not too far apart. Twin means inch, or a small length like an inch. Depicts a hand with a mark for the wrist showing where it's thinner. So it's just phonetic in this case. So we start with the dian, hung, pie, shu, dian, dian, one coming down, the one going out. Hung, shu go, dian, chen. The second character in shirt, shan, also has the clothing radical like that, and then the 3 pie in a row, which could mean either feathers or wings or shadow. It means something in some characters and something in another. In this case, it doesn't matter because it's just phonetic. Dian, hung, pie, shu. Dian, dian, pie, 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 shan. Dian, a shop or a store. So again, we see an indication of shelter or a building related to this idea of a hillside or a cliff. These are actually characters in modern Chinese, but I'm talking about them as components, not as characters. And they both mean shelter. The one with the dot on it, this tends to indicate human habitation a little bit more. The phonetic in it is just a phonetic. John altered to dian. But it depicts someone, indicated by the mouth, giving fortune telling, indicating by the bu, indicated this way, which is a depiction of the cracks of the oracle bones, which would go book, which is pronounced boo. But when someone speaks it, it's pronounced John, and then that's phonetic for this. I also think of this as being the shop with someone standing behind a counter. There they are with their hand sticking out, asking for money, and there's the counter, dian. So here is our dot on the top, hung, pie, shu, hung, shu, hung, zhe, hung, dian. And now we have tiao. This component here is usually zhi, which means a foot. In this case, I think it's just an indication of branches on the top of the tree. Tiao, measure word for thin, slender things, and it actually can mean a stick. Pie, hung, pie, na. Hung, shugo, pie, na. Tiao. The next character, chun, for skirt. We have the clothing radical again. The phonetic on this is jun, which is a depiction of a servant, and ko, a servant giving orders. So jun is a member of the aristocracy. Why they would call themselves a servant, I don't know. Just phonetic here. Dian, hung, pie, shu. Dian, dian, hung, ja, hung, pie, shu, hung, ja, hung, qun. Hua is just phonetic. So the traditional character for guo is this. The traditional writing for guo is hua inside of the border. So in simplified form, guo, like that, that replaces the inside part. Now the inside part depicts a spear, ge is a spear, and a person standing his ground at a line. So that is just phonetic here. You can maybe remember it that way. Hung is the first thing, and then you do the ko, and then hung. Xie go, pie, dian, hua. This next character is a phonetic borrowing, zhe. In this case, I think is just borrowed to add the second syllable in huozhe. Originally, it's thought to depict hands putting something into a pot. So the modern character today, zhu, with fire under the pot, that means to cook or to boil something. But that might help you remember it, it might not. Hopefully it'll help you remember zhu when we get there. To write the character, you have hung, shu, hung. So that might be an indication of two hands, and then passing something down, one long pie, and then the top of the pot. Shu, hung, zhe, hung, zhe. Ku, pants or trousers. We've got the clothing radical again, and then we have the component for shelter, and in the shelter we have a cart. So the cart in the shelter indicates storage. It's pronounced ku, so that's just phonetic in this case. To write the character, we have dian, hung, pie, shu, dian, 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 hung, pie, hung, pie, zhe, shu, hung, ku. Huang is originally thought to depict something worn around the waist, and by extension, yellow jade because it's worn around the waist. But I remember it mostly by the Cao Zitou. So that's usually a plant name, but I think that is understood to be the belt with something around it. But Cao Zitou, the grass radical, and I think it is labeled under the grass label radical, so you can look it up that way. This is the ancient form of what grass looks like, written like this. Traditional characters written like this. So to write the character, we have hung, shu, shu, hung, shu, heng, zhe, heng, shu, heng, pie, dian, huang. And the next character is definitely a phonetic borrowing. It doesn't have anything to do with either component, that there's a mistake. This is the simplified version of this radical, jin, which means gold or metal. In this case, probably just metal. So it's written like this one as a radical. The right-hand side is just phonetic. Xi, it means the past in modern Chinese. So here's a reference to the past. The sun has gone down, things are over. Just phonetic. So, cuo, a mistake. We start off with metal. Pie, heng, 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 shu, ti, heng, shu, shu, heng, shu, heng, zhe, heng, heng, cuo. The next character, B, is a depiction of two people. So sometimes a person was depicted this way. If you think of it as something like that, and I don't know if it resembled that very much, but then you can see how the character sort of developed. So B actually meant people interacting with each other, so one person on one side, one person on the other, and hence, by extension, to compare things. So to write B, shu, heng, heng, and then the right-hand side has been modified for the use of the brush. Pie, shu, one, go, B, to compare. And then the second part of the word jiao, of compare, bi jiao. You have a cart for the radical ch, and on the right side you have the phonetic jiao, which means to interact, to exchange. You can see that it looks like exchange, interaction. It actually looks like an X. And I find that interesting. But it's just phonetic here. But you can think of an interaction between chariots, a chariot race, and so thereby comparing things. Heng, shu, zhe, shu. Actually, that's pie, zhe, shu. Heng, dian, heng, dian, pie, pie, na. Jiao. Chuan is composed of two components. The top part is xue, which means cave. A cave is a roof with ba, a division of it, meaning an opening. So an opening under a roof or an overburden, that is a cave, a hole, a tunnel. And then the component underneath is ya, which is tooth. And that's been highly modified, but originally it did sort of look like a tooth. So a tooth in a tunnel. This is like to tunnel your way through things like a rat gnawing through the wall. Chuan means to go through. So maybe by extension it means like putting your clothes on by tunneling your arms and legs through your clothes. But probably it just was borrowed for the phonetic sound. It will help you remember the character though. Dian on the top, dian or shu. Heng go, pie, dian, there's your cave. Heng, pie, zhe, shu go, pie, there's your tooth. Chuan. Hei is a fun character. It is a depiction of fire on the bottom, 四点火, 4 dots fire. So huo, written like this, if you look at it, there are only 4 strokes on it. If you spread them out, they'd be like that. And then the top part is considered to be anciently a chimney flue. So you have shu, hung, zhe, dian, dian. Notice that they come inwards. Hung, hung, shu, hung, dian, 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 dian. Hey, sure, as in a test. The radical component is speech. That's obvious enough. Yen, depiction of a tongue, expression, words, speech. The right-hand side is phonetic, but it also has some significance. So you've got gong, and this thing on the right looks a little bit like ge, spear, but it actually is e, a stringed arrow, an arrow with a string on it so you can retrieve it. So you put work into that thing, and that's considered a type or a pattern. So the speech aspect of learning the patterns or working on the patterns of things is a test or an experiment or a learning experience. So here we have dian, hung, zhe, go, hung, hung, shu, hung, xie, go, dian, shi. Bong, this also is a character that the meaning is not related to the components. We have this thing on the left side at the top. This is taken from that. Feng, it's basically the same thing. So that's the phonetic. And then you have the thing on the right side. This is the right ear or E component, meaning city. Now we haven't run across many of these yet, but on the left side it's actually a different character. So these two together are pronounced bong. The bottom component is cloth or a strip of cloth, jin, or a pennant. So a bong was one time some type of cloth. So we do the hung first. Hung, 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 pie, hung, zhe, wan, go, shu, dian, hung, zhe, go, shu. Bong, to help someone out. Wrong, to allow someone to do something or to have someone do something. Those are not related meanings, but they use the same character, and you've only learned one meaning so far. The speech radical again, and shang as a phonetic. In the traditional character, you just have a much more evolved phonetic. Dian, hung, zhe, go, shu, dian, hung, rang. Qian, or money, is the gold or metal radical, probably referring to gold this time, which is the short form of jin, gold or metal. And then the phonetic is this, a doubled spear. So in the traditional characters, it actually writes out the spear both times, but for the simplified form, you just combine it, which is convenient. Pie, hung, 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 shu, go, hung, hung, xie, go, pie, dian, qian. The next character, kwai. Measure word, spoken measure word for dollars. It actually means chunks or pieces, so the radical is 2. Bottom stroke needs to be longer than the top. And the right-hand side is phonetic, kwai. And I do not recall what it means. So kwai by itself means a piece of earth, as in earth, or a chunk or a piece of something. In this case, it is $1, a piece of money. Hung, shu, ti, hung, zhe, hung, pie, na, kwai. Zhang, also a phonetic borrowing. This is an interesting character. The left-hand side is gong. It is a bow. So it shows the recurve of a bow. It doesn't show the string, but it shows the recurve bow. The right-hand side, chang, is the phonetic, and it originally indicated long hair. Zhang, hung, zhe, so you need to do this right. Hung, zhe, hung, and then the rest is one stroke. Shu, zhe, zhe, one, go, and then shu, pie, hung, shu, go, na, zhang. Ying, this is a cool character. So we have the sun at the top of the left-hand side over jing, which is phonetic. Jing is capital, and we've talked about this several times. It's a depiction of a gate tower for a city. Here it is, the gate tower, and there are the walls. So you can sort of see how that represents a gate tower. Here it's phonetic in jing, which means sunlight in classical Chinese. And then you have the shan from shirt, chen shan, which in this case is shadows. And you're just borrowing that for the sound. So here we go. Shu, hung, zhe, hung, hung, dian, hung, shu, hung, zhe, hung, shu, go, dian, dian, pie, pie, pie. Ying. The next character is piao, and it has a very strange story to its origin. It's said to represent some animal that had no waist. Not an animal, but a hobgoblin. So, xi, meaning west today, and it's also the top part of yao. And it also is in the modern word for waist. Here is the character for waist. It's got flesh or meat on the right side indicating a body. And then you've got a woman below and maybe some indication of a waist up here. So that means waist in itself, like someone's middle waist. And so xi was thought to originally mean waist, and yao was written separately from this to distinguish it. So some hobgoblin that didn't have a waist would come by and give people summonses or a subpoena to go to the courts of hell. So by extension, a ticket. You can also think of it as just the character for the west over sure, to reveal a ticket. Hung, shu, hung, zhe, shu, shu, one, hung, 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 shugo, pie, dien, piao. End of lesson 13.